Spanish has a total of 14 tenses, but in real-life conversations, you only need about 4. In this video, I'll show you which 4, when to use each one, and why you don't really need the other 10, and why these are so important.
Podré para mejorar mi español cuando no tengo mucho tiempo libre para estudiar español.
El video después que acabas de ver era yo, con 13 años, logrando la fluidez en mi cuarto idioma, el español, lo que me tomó 120 horas de estudio, ahorrándome cientos de horas de estudio en comparación con el estudiante medio. Si no me conoces, me llamo Hamid, tengo 16 años y ayudo a la gente a hablar español con fluidez más rápido. So as I said, Spanish has 14 tenses and you only really need 4, okay? Those being the ones you see on screen, and these are the complicated ways that people say them, okay? Now, these 4 do most of the work, okay? The others do come up, but they just come up less. And when you're in conversations, these matter more. And so here are the 4. The present, the line in the past, the point in the past, and the mood tense, okay? And I personally name it in this way because I find it easier to understand. So the present tense in Spanish does 3 things, okay? It tells you what things that are happening in this moment right now, okay? So if you want to say, I'm speaking Spanish, you could say, hablo español, okay? It could be general things that you just regularly do or you normally do. So I work in an office, trabajo en una oficina. And so this also includes the ing version, right? I am working in an office or I work in an office. It can also talk about things in the future, which is why this tense actually replaces the future tense. Because you can actually say things like voy a and then whatever, meaning I'm going to do whatever. Or add context words like the word tomorrow, which is mañana, as you see in this example, that already tells you that it's the future tense. And so you don't need to actually use the future tense. You can actually just use the present tense for the future tense. You might hear the voy a form be used a lot, meaning I am going to and then blank verb. That form is a lot of times used more than the future tense. And so that's why this tense is so helpful. Now, one thing before we move on, I won't be including vosotros and vos. Vosotros is mostly used in Spain and vos mostly in Argentina. And you can be completely fluent without learning either. I didn't learn either, and I understand them when natives speak, but I don't use them, and you don't need to use them. All the other pronouns suffice. Next thing I want you to know is that, out of the three verb endings in Spanish, ar and ir, er and ir almost always have the exact same endings, okay? And so I won't be necessarily separating them. There's only one exception, which we'll get to, but they are the same in everything in Spanish, okay? So the present tense, all you do is you drop the ending. And I know this looks scary, but don't worry, we're learning this through rules, okay? All you do is you take off ar for ar verbs, and you put o to make it I, for, I mean yo. To make it you informal, you take off the ar and you put as. To make it he, she, it, or you formal, you take off the ar and put a. If you want to make it we, you take off the ar and put amos. And if you want to make it there, you guys, you take off the ar and put an. And then you can see for er and ir, it's just instead of a, use e. And the only exception here is, again, and this is the we form, where for er verbs it will be hemos, and for ir verbs it will be imos. But for the entire language, the rest of the entire conjugation, er and ir verbs will have the same ending, okay? I don't want you to memorize this, okay? This table right here, forget about it. The way I would learn this, and the way I learned it myself, is to simply remember the rule that for ar verbs, this happens for this pronoun. Or for ir verbs, this happens when I'm trying to make, for example, he do the verb. Okay. And if you didn't understand what I just said there, then I'd highly recommend just learning how verbs work in Spanish, learning the absolute basics of, pronouns and verbs and stuff like that. Moving on, you barely need the future tense because this form, this ir a form that I mentioned, is used way more. Okay. In my experience, it's about 90% to 10%, where 90% of the times you'll use the present tense to refer to the future tense, or you'll use this ir plus a form. And again, these complicated words that you hear, forget about them. We're trying to make this simple, right? And if you're just starting out, I'd highly recommend checking out the Speedy Spanish Roadmap. It's a free course I created to help you start learning Spanish with these methods. And you'll find it in the first link in the description. So the expression of saying that someone is going to do something is used way more than the actual future tense of that person will do that. Okay, so that's the present. But now we need the past. And this is actually where most learners struggle, because the way that school teaches it and the way that most methods teach it is very complicated, okay? And the way I'm going to teach it is to not tell you that it's the imperfect, but rather to tell you that it is the line in the past. And that all it means is was or used to, okay? So I like to think about this tense as on the timeline, right? There is a period of time in which something was happening. A line in the past, okay? And that sort of line, and that is what defines this past tense, okay? And so it is helpful to think that it directly translates to someone, for example, I was eating or I used to eat, okay? For the verb comer, for example. But it doesn't work that way all the time. For example, a verb like, for example, to be born in Spanish is nacer, but in English we say I was born. But in reality, you weren't born over a period of time. You were born at a point in time. And so if you directly translated it like that, you would make mistakes. And so I want you to think about the imperfect, or how I'm going to call it, the line in the past, as a period of time in the past, okay, a duration. So it's for things that happened over a period of time. So for example, I used to live in Mexico, or I used to study every day, vivía or estudiaba. And it can also mean was, like I was living in Mexico or I was studying every day. It's was and used to. Now, the way you conjugate these is simple. All you do for adverbs is take off the ar and put aba, and then the same logic from the present tense applies, which is why I teach that we don't memorize, we learn through logic, okay? And so because we already know that, because we already got sort of a pattern from the present tense, that pattern can be applied to every other tense. And so we don't have to go have that big table again, right? We can just look at this and understand through logic that, okay, if Abba gets one, you informal would probably be Abbas. We would probably be Abamos. They or you guys would be Aban. Makes sense, right? So we add that for hablar, for example. And this one actually, like hablaba, would mean I used to speak. And also he, she, it, you formal used to speak or were speaking. The I and the he, she, it, you formal are actually grouped together in this tense. And then for erir verbs, you take off the erir and you put ia, and then same logic, okay? It's very simple. So that's half the past tense done. But once you see the next past tense, once you learn the next past tense, then everything will actually start to make more sense. And when you see the next past tense and compare it to the line in the past side by side, it will completely clear up all confusion. The next one being the point in the past, okay? It is something that has been completed. It's a single moment in time. Think about it as a snapshot. And this is in the textbooks and dictionaries known as the preterite, okay? Again, you don't need to know that. So when you compare these two, you realize that, one of them is a period of time in the past. The other is a point. That is what separates these two, okay? And so everyone always mixes these two up. In reality, they are super simple and easy to understand, okay? If you said hablaba con él using the line in the past, that would mean something that was going on, right? You used to speak with him or you were talking to him. But if you said hablé con él, it means that you just spoke to him. It was one and done. It was a snapshot in time, a point in the past. And so for these ones are a bit more irregular, but they still do follow sort of a logic, okay? So for adverbs, you take off the ar and you put an e with an accent for the I version. So I spoke would be hablé. He, she, it, or you formal spoke would be habló. You informal spoke would be hablaste. We spoke would be hablamos, which yes, is the same as the present tense. And then they or you guys spoke would be hablaron. And then for erir verbs, do I, okay? And the same sort of logic applies. So for example, if you want to say he lived, it would be vivió. And so you can see how there's a pattern, the same pattern from the adverbs applies to the erir verbs. But these are a bit more sort of irregular. They don't follow the exact same pattern that we've been sort of learning, okay? And by the way, if you want to check out all these conjugations for any verb, all you do is go on a website called SpanishDictionary.com and then just search up a verb and then click on the conjugation tab. And that way, so this is what that would look like, for example. So you search it up and then you go to the conjugation table right here, and then you can see, and then you can see all of the sort of conjugations, okay? Okay, so we can now talk about the present and the future, because the present can refer to the future. We also know how to refer to the two past tenses. Now it's the one that most people have been dreading for, and it's the hardest one. And school and textbooks makes this one feel impossible. But there's a trick here that made this extremely simple and easy for me. And once I learned it this way, I rarely mess this one up. And it's obviously the subjunctive, the imperative. I like to call it the mood tense. And I like to put it all into one sort of rule. When there's doubt or uncertainty, that's when this happens. Or when there's a demand or an order. Now, those two are actually the same thing, because whenever you demand something from someone, there is a fundamental doubt or an uncertainty that person will do it. And so the real rule here is when there is doubt or uncertainty, that's when this happens, okay? In the technical terms for this is when there's doubt or uncertainty, it's the subjunctive. And when it's an order or demand, it's the imperative. But they actually conjugate the exact same way with one exception. And so that's why I like to group them together. The one exception being that affirmative two commands will be conjugated differently. But you don't really think about that right now, okay? So whenever there's a doubt or an uncertainty, like if you wanted to say, I don't think he speaks Spanish, right? You not thinking is a fact. And so you wouldn't conjugate creer in the subjunctive or the mood tense. But him speaking Spanish has a doubt. We are doubtful. We're uncertain if he speaks Spanish. And so he speaks would be conjugated in mood tense. Okay? When you desire something like, I want you to eat more. Me wanting that is a fact. But you eating more isn't a fact. It's uncertain. And so we would conjugate comas, or the verb so we'd conjugate the verb to eat, comer, in the mood tense. Okay? It's when you demand something or you order something. And it could be either an affirmative command, so telling someone to do something. And it can also be a negative, so it could be telling someone to not do something. Okay? So don't speak so fast, right? No hables tan rápido. No, don't eat that. No comas eso. Okay, so the way we conjugate these is by doing the same regular conjugation like in the present tense, okay, except you actually swap the endings from adverbs and erir verbs. And so if you remember in the beginning of the video when I explained the present tense, he, she, it, or you formal speaks, in the regular present tense would be habla, and he, she, it, or you formal eats would be come, and so we'd have the e as the ending for erir verbs and a as the ending for adverbs. For the mood tense, you just switch those. Meaning, he, she, it, you formal speaks in the mood tense would be hable, and he, she, it, you formal eat would be coma in the mood tense. Okay? And again, and the same thing applies to the rest of it. You just swap the endings for er and ir verbs in the present tense. It's that simple. Okay? And I know what you're thinking. What about irregular verbs? Well, the most common verbs in Spanish are irregular, okay? Like most of them are, and that's just kind of how languages work. The more you use it, the more irregularities it's going to have because humans like to break patterns. I don't know why. But the thing is, you actually don't have to memorize these. The way I like to learn these is essentially just repetition through an exercise I like to call transcript training, which is where I learn vocabulary through native content, which you might have seen in my other videos. But the concept here is that the same pattern applies, the same like base or stem applies. And so, for example, for the point in the past, a verb like tener, which is irregular, it's like a root isn't how it should be. And so I had from tener, for the point in the past, should have been teni, but it's not, it's tuve, okay? But for the rest of the conjugation, you can see a pattern where this stem, this root, this base of tuv remains. And so it continues for the rest of the verbs. And so even though irregularities happen, like there are irregularities, the irregularities reoccur. And so it's not pure memorization. The way I like to learn these is actually just through natural repetition, meaning discovering these naturally through input, through hearing native speak, and then searching up the actual conjugation and seeing what those irregularities are. And I have other videos going more in depth into that process. And so these are the four: the present, the line, the point, and the mood tense. Okay, these will give you like roughly 95% of real conversations. Okay. Like even the mood tense is a little like overdoing it, okay? You actually like, if you mess up the mood tense, people will still understand you, okay? Really just present, line, and point are the main ones, okay? Now, this doesn't mean don't study other tenses in Spanish, okay? I personally, in my program, I teach all the tenses, okay? Because obviously, if you want to express yourself, you do need to basically know all the tenses. But when it comes to people who want to start actually having conversations with people, these four are the most commonly used. In my experience, almost always use these four in conversations, in my experience, okay? And I also just want to highlight another concept in this video, which is like most of the like 14 tenses, some of them just aren't necessary, okay? My final tip to give you is that if you're learning grammar, learn through logic, understand the why behind Spanish grammar, understand like how we got to a sentence, right? Like you might think things like these look scary and it's like, hard to understand or whatever, but I promise you, like, putting like say a bit of effort into just understanding it has so much ROI in the long term because one input of understanding will give you so much output in the long term that it's super worth it. Like I know it can seem hard in the beginning to understand these concepts, but like it's one unit of effort, it's one time work for understanding basically every single example where it happens. And it's much faster than to memorize all of those examples individually. And I have other videos talking about exactly that framework of learning grammar. If you're serious about learning Spanish and you want help from me, then check the second link in the description. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed and stay humble.